Welcome to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I am joined today by Rhea Allen. She is with Peppershock Media. So Rhea, thank you so much for joining me on The Claw.
Well, thank you so much for having me today.
So I like all the bright, you have those bright colors and things behind you. So it's very, very nice. I like your setup. So tell us a little bit about Peppershock Media. What do y'all do? I'm a Southerner, so what do y'all do?
Yeah, what do y'all do? Well, Peppershock is a full-service marketing and advertising agency with a very heavy focus on video production.
Okay.
My husband and I started the company in 2003, so when you're listening to this, basically 20 years ago, and have grown our staff and team and clients over the years to include graphic design, web design, social media management, digital advertising, basically all the things that a company may need to help augment their marketing team to help support them in building their brand and their bottom line.
Nice. And so you talked about video. Have you been doing video since 2003?
Yep. So my husband got the degree in video production. I got the degree and then the master's degree in marketing and entrepreneurship. So literally marrying the two together. That makes marketing strategy and then execution. And then we've added our art director, graphic designers, people to help support to make it full service. So yeah, when we originally started, it was just him and I moonlighting and getting jobs on the side until we could get to a point where we could quit our jobs and our day jobs and actually focus on Peppershock full time, and have been doing that ever since.
Nice. Yeah. The video, thinking about that at that time was really kind of a forefront, like that's a frontier of it. And now it's such an important aspect of all the things that happen in the marketing space.
Absolutely. Visual storytelling is definitely something that people need to invest in for sure.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, everybody, I talk about marketing religion. So everyone has kind of their marketing religion. So I give a presentation called Making Sense of the Modern Day Marketing Maze. And so I'll bring it up and we all may be one religion, but there's always at least a flavor of them. So what's your flavor? So what are some of the tenets of things that you work with clients and kind of either insist on to make sure that they're going to be successful, or mistakes you see they make? If I had you give a presentation, what would be your top tips in that category?
Well, I do focus a lot on culture and branding together.
All right.
And so I work with clients to help them with branding from the inside out. So sometimes that includes employer-employee branding that then, exudes out to the customers and clients and community they serve. And so I believe that, happy culture makes happy customers if you've got a good, solid foundation for your culture. And I always tell people culture is going to happen whether you want to or not. So if you can do things to help guide the culture, what you want that brand experience to be when you're hiring, when you're getting new vendors, when you're getting new clients on board, that whole experience that is the company that you're working with, that kind of helps define your culture and your brand.
Yeah. That's interesting because we'll work with clients, and the first thing they may want to do, we have a lot of M&A. So we have a lot of clients who are in the process of purchasing another company. So we're bringing them together, and one of their first important aspects is okay, so we had one that had 20 brands. So we need to bring the 20 brands together to one. So we're sort of looking at their outward, how they approach. And then we came behind that and did some mission, vision, and value work with them, which was to define the culture and what that looked like. So it sounds like you may start more on that internal side, which is a really interesting way of thinking about it. So
the inside out is always what we, in the perfect world, if we can, that's what we like to do. But we do a marketing audit to look at everything that they've been doing, what to stop, start, keep, and tweak. And if there are areas of focus that need our impact and input, because it's either they have the time or the talent, or they don't have the time, or they do have the talent but not the time. And so working together and creating a division of duties of who can do what and what skills that some people may have that they're not utilizing as much as they could, or maybe it's areas of focus that they don't love doing. And so maybe there's things that we can do on our team to help augment that together. and really creating that cohesive partnership between client and customer. And so that's definitely areas that we like to look at and see, what are the skill sets that people have that they're bringing to the table, and where do we fill the gaps for sure.
What made you decide, or why marketing? Like, how did you get into this space?
Yeah, so I have always been entrepreneurial spirit first, and I think I learned at a young age that working for other people may not be the best suited place for me because I'd always want to make changes and make things better and more efficient, and not everybody always appreciates change in those corporate settings. So I was originally working in news, and I was a newscast director, and then at the TV stations, you kind of wear multiple hats. So I was editing promos and doing all kinds of things, working with the promotions department, and then I would direct the nightly news. And it really, when I went to Seattle and worked at the Fox station there, in the afternoons, I got to work with the Mariners, the Seahawks, the Sonics at the time, right? And I just fell in love with the marketing side of things and promotion side of things, maybe even more so than what I was doing in the news side of things. So I really wanted to determine that area of focus. And then after working in news and having to work 52 days straight on Christmas, Easter, New Year's, I mean, the news still goes on 24/7, whether you want to or not. I really then decided that was probably a love-hate relationship for me, that I just, loved it, but hated it at the same time, and decided I wanted to do something that I might love and enjoy even more and start our own company. Now, I joke, though, because it's like, yeah, sure, I'll work 52 days straight in the business, but it's for myself, right? For ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
very different feeling. And we moved back, we boomeranged back to the Boise, Idaho area. And after living in Seattle, after we quit our jobs there and moved back, that's when we really started to, get serious about doing the business. And we were just kind of doing things on the side, video production projects on the side. And then got some really big projects that required us to get to quit our day job. So just really evolved over time. And we started this business before Facebook was even invented, right?
Yeah.
Before the online digital new media even became a thing. And so we really helped companies transition from the traditional methods into the new media, new wave of doing things, the digital space, and really were pretty early adopters at the time, and we still are, as far as new tools and technologies and platforms and social media space, all of those things that we're using, and helped financial institutions and health insurance and all these different types of companies get into the next generation of where you need to be to advertise and market your business. So lots of good working with clients in educating them, right? You mentioned what's the one thing, I think educating, and I do a lot of training. I'm also a adjunct professor at Boise State. I teach marketing.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
So I think getting them up to speed is helpful.
It's funny because I talk with a lot of marketers, and I'm probably a frustrated teacher, so I probably should teach because I do love it. Like, I love to impart knowledge and talk about things. And then journalism, I wrote a column for a long time for Inc. and did journalism. Like, I was on my school newspaper and loved to write. And so that feels like a common thread in this category, because all of us like to want to hear the story, and people do such a bad job. They typically hide it, right? They tell you all the stuff. You're like, I don't really care about anything you just said. Like, tell me something interesting. If you start to think about some of those patterns, and it is an interesting, about 2007, 2008 was a very disruptive period, right? So what's the stuff that you think, what are you teaching and educating your clients about today?
Yeah, so at the beginning of every year, we put on an event called New Marketing Trends for the new year, and it forces us in a good way to look at everything that's trending, what's new, what's coming up, what are the new tools and tricks, and AI and all the things that are happening. And, as a result of that, we invite our clients and business community to come to the event. And I bring in other speakers, and I learn just as much as they get to learn from me all the different ways that they can help make their business more efficient, maybe be able to measure. I always say measure what you treasure, automate what you hate, and dump what you don't.
What's the last one? So what did you say? So give me those three. Those are great. I like
Yes. Measure what you treasure.
Okay.
Automate what you hate.
Got it.
Dump what you don't.
Dump what you don't. Okay. I love it. Automate what you hate. That's great. That's such good advice. It's like, if you can just like make it a process and give it to someone else. So yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yep. It's good. Yeah. Yeah. Delegate it. That's another one. Do it, delegate it, or toss it. DDT.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I can give the world educational information and use my expertise and experiences and things that I've been able to, witness and go through with previous clients, and they can have that as an advantage to them, then I'm doing them a service just as much as I'm doing myself a service and being able to share what I know. And during the pandemic, we decided to create a website, a membership subscription site for people to get that information. So I'm always doing trainings and webinars and podcasts, and I'm, invited to speak all over the world now. I spoke in Saudi Arabia in February, Iceland. I'm going there to do creative conference. I am speaking at the visual storytelling conference. So all of these things that I am teaching get recorded and then put into what we call the marketing expedition. And so that's the community that we created. And sometimes people aren't necessarily able to afford an agency yet, but maybe they need, the latest and greatest news and information, so they can log in there and get all the things that can help them in some way or another. So we are going on a marketing journey together.
Very nice. I love it. Great. Yeah. So we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we get back, we'll kind of start talking about, I want you to walk me through a scenario. So like, what does, when a client shows up on your doorstep, number one, how do they even know they need to show up on your doorstep? What are some of those indications? And then what do you do kind of per second and third? So how do you diagnose the patient? So you're listening to The Claw. I'm talking to Rhea Allen. She's with Peppershock Media. I'm Eric Holtzclaw with Liger, Chief Strategist, and we'll be back in just a minute.
The Claw podcast is brought to you by Liger Partners. Liger Partners is a premier marketing firm where we save the world from boring, broken marketing. We get underdogs recognition because you deserve it. For more information, go to ligerpartners.com and follow us on all social media platforms at Liger Partners.
And we're back. You're listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I'm talking to Rhea Allen. She is with Peppershock Media and definitely works with those C-suite executives on their marketing and making sure that they're doing all the right and effective things. So how does someone know that it's time for a little Peppershock?
Well, I think the best thing to do is to think about where you're at in your marketing. And if you feel like you're a little stuck and you just need some additional help or advice, or, making sure that what you're doing is working, that you are measuring what you treasure, and that things are happening the way you want them to. And if they're not, then that's where we can come in and be a second set of eyes on everything that you've got going on. What is working, what's not, what to stop, start, keep, tweak, and continue on. And then that's where we can do the audit process. I always tell people it's not as scary as an IRS audit, right? It's a marketing audit. It's supposed to be fun and helpful, right? But yeah, then we can come back with the recommendations, what the top priorities are, what that division of duties needs to be, where, you maybe are lacking some tools or some things that you could use to help augment the system and processes and make them more efficient to get a better return on your marketing investments. And so we really like to analyze all of the things that we can up front, and then come back with our discoveries and findings. And here's a plan that we can put together with you. That's the best, most efficient way to get to work with us. But it helps when we can do that upfront work, so that we're not just jumping in and making a whole bunch of assumptions of what we think is working or not working. But yeah, really digging in and taking a peek under the hood to see what's making those sounds, what's making things hum, and flow and go. So yeah.
If you could, is there is there one kind of thing you wish you could wave a magic wand and tell all of your clients, like some kind of mistake that you see them commonly making that you're still surprised that they do in today's environment?
It's kind of up for debate how much social media can really impact a brand or not, right? And how engaging and if it's even getting any traction or working. And I think that the answer to that is having the strategy and plan and having some budget to back it up, because you have to pay to play. You really have to pay to play. And just putting social media posts out there and expecting people to see them, expecting your audience to see them without paying to boost or share or, drive traffic is not gonna be as effective as maybe it once was.
Okay.
And so I think that the message really is that set aside some budget so that you can pay to play and actually get a return on what you're doing.
Yeah, very interesting, because we do a lot of B2B marketing, and that's been a thing that's been a struggle because they've been so used to organic growth. And so we have had to evangelize that for the past couple of years of, look, we've reached the organic limit of what we can do. We've got to have something to get into some new audiences, and think about how these companies make money. They're going to they want the people who are paying them. They're going to bring those people's content up.
Well, yeah. And if you can partner with other influencers or other brands that are, not necessarily competition, but co-opetition, or, where you can, rise together, maybe have a similar audience, but you're not competing against each other, but the audience that you're trying to attract is very similar. Like we do a lot of work in the mature audience, so senior citizens, and helping senior care types of things, whether it be insurance advisors, whether it be financial, even hospice, companies we work with. So a lot of them have very similar audience that they want to attract. Either it's the adult children of the seniors who need to, move on to the next stage of their life, or it's the seniors themselves. And so having the different audiences, but having co-op coming together. A hospice company is not going to necessarily be a competition with an insurance company, but if you can partner and now suddenly leverage both audiences, those are some cooperative, interesting things, co-branding that you can do to attract the right types of people who need to know about the services or, the company that you're serving. So, finding ways to get interesting audiences to be able to pay attention to you is super helpful, and then being able to leverage that with those partnerships that you can put together.
That's interesting. I was in a room this week talking about that exact audience for a thing we're looking at, and they're inundated with so much advertising around like drugs and other kinds of things. So the message is already hard to get through because you've got so much that's being sent their way. So how
pharmaceuticals seem to have so much money to spend all the time.
Yeah, right. So how do you actually get through that? And if you can partner and make it part of something else, then that's a way to make your marketing dollars go further.
Webinars on demand, things like that you can partner up and have different speakers, because now if you have multiple speakers at an event that you're creating, their audience now just triples or, quadruples the amount of people that might get to see it. So those are other good ways to cross promote for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do a part of our onboarding where we look at macro and micro trends. So trends that you can control and trends you can't. And I tell most of the businesses we work with don't have the kind of budgets that they can become their own trend. I'm like, you really don't want to be your own trend. It'd be better for you to participate in one. If you become your own trend, you've often done something you shouldn't have. So
exactly. It could be a negative trending.
Yeah, it's really not necessarily a thing you should aspire to, right? So then as you're thinking about, so we talked a little bit about like disruption and whatever, either the marketing technology or AI. I mean, what's interesting to you? I mean, you participated as you saw social media come on board. Like, what's the thing that you're like, we really got to be in front of this now?
Yeah, I mean, AI is definitely a hot topic now, and just weeding through all the different types of tools that are out there. And word to the wise, by the way, if you do sign up for a trial of an AI tool, remember what you signed up for, because it just keeps charging you every single month until you decide to do something with it. And that can really add up. I did a conference in April. I was at the National Association of Broadcasters in Las Vegas, and I did a whole bunch of trials just to see so I could talk about the AI tools for creatives and what they could use. And I had to go back and remember which ones I needed to either keep or not. And I am using some of them, and there's some really fascinating tools out there now that you can use to augment what you're doing. I still think that you have to have HI in order to use AI, and HI is human intelligence.
Yes, agreed. I talk about the difference between creation and curation. So like the AI creates it, but you still have to be able to curate it, right? And if you don't know what you're choosing from, then it's just garbage in, garbage out. So it's not a replacement for, like you said, the HI. The HI and then also the intelligence quotient too, right? Like look at you, a little of that behind it. Yeah, before we finish, I did want to ask you, so you talked about inside out, right? So like making sure you look at a company from the inside out. So in that, so is your approach and like you do an internal communications piece before you do the marketing component, or you're just using the internal, like what they look like to then drive what that brand is how it's gonna appear externally? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it is a bit of both. I mean, we have worked with actually kind of the HR department and the marketing department and getting them on the same page and singing from the same sheet of music so they're not off key. And being able to tell the story that they can all be proud of internally, then using that story to then share externally to all the customers and community and vendors and partners that they want to know about their story. And so being able to work inside out, like you mentioned, is very helpful because it does start from the inside out and how you want that brand experience to be for the customers that would utilize the service or product or anything that is, outwardly facing. So if you've got your employees on board, I always say your new shareholders aren't like the traditional sense of like investors who are shareholders in your company. No, the shareholders now are your employees who share the story. They are the holder of that story to share. And if they can share the story in the way that you want it to be across the board and have your branding and messaging and your elevators, the elevator pitch that everyone does, if it's consistent and it's meaningful to all of them and they're a part of the process of what that looks like, they're going to have more buy-in. They're going to want to share that because they own it themselves. So they are truly the shareholders of your company.
Nice. I like that. I love the talking about marketing and HR because we see those two often as our greatest champions. They're the ones that we work with the best, the most. You'd think it'd be marketing and sales maybe, but it's always like marketing and HR. Those are our two kind of best entry points. Well, it's been great chatting with you. So if other people want to chat with you, how do they what's the best way to get in touch?
I am definitely on all of the social media platforms, but two things, peppershock.com, and that has a lot of our work that we've done before and ways that you can reach out to us. And then if you want to be a part of the Marketing Expedition community, you can go to the marketingexpedition.com and you can use a promo code month1, the number 1, month1, and get the first month free on me. And would love to see you inside the community and just being able to share all of the expertise and knowledge that I can share to help you build your brand and your bottom line.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you so much. This was a great show. I can't wait to hear it.
So you've been listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I've been speaking today with Rhea Allen. She's with Peppershock Media. If you want to look at your marketing from the inside out, you should reach out to Peppershock. And thank you so much. And until next time.